Joining us now for analysis is former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus. Thank you so much for being with us, Morgan.
Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it.
So the administration has said the Afghan people have the capacity, they have the tools. The only question is, will they assume the mantle and act to nation build for themselves, defend against the Taliban? Your opinion, can they?
So, Jackie, I think this is a complicated question, but let me just say that I think the way that the withdrawal is taking place right now is pretty disgraceful. It didn't have to happen this way. And what you often hear is sort of this debate that we have to end our forever wars, which I think a lot of the American people and politicians agree with, or we have to stay in Afghanistan for forever. And there actually is a middle way. And that's the way that President Trump and Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, were pursuing, which is continued diplomatic negotiations, getting a peace deal with the Taliban, trying to hold them accountable, and drawing down our forces. Yes, we were definitely drawing down our forces in Afghanistan under President Trump, under Mike Pompeo. But the difference is that we were constantly assessing the the terrorism threat while we were doing so. And we had remained committed to leaving a residual counterterrorism force as long as there was a threat to the United States. So to me, this looks like a hasty, embarrassing withdrawal. I understand that President Biden wants to, quote unquote, end the forever wars, but I don't see how his administration is taking into account the people that have helped us on the ground, the interpreters, Jackie, that you and others have reported on, that have helped the United States for many years. Mm-hmm. And I don't see how they are assessing the terrorism needs that may emanate out of Afghanistan to the United States. Our commitment under Mike Pompeo and President Trump was that Afghanistan would never again be a safe haven for terrorists to be able to plan attacks against the American soil. And this withdrawal that the Biden administration is doing, I don't see how that is being taken into account.
Well, to one thing you mentioned, I mean, I should point out the administration has said that they are working to get these translators, allies of the U.S. To safety in third countries, and that is, of course, a big concern and priority for the administration. But I want to get to one other point. Are you at all concerned that there's not enough intelligence gathering capability left with this withdrawal? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I'm very concerned about that. Where are we going to operate some of our intelligence platforms from? From Pakistan, which is essentially now a Chinese satellite state and obviously harbored the Taliban for a long time. We don't have, it's not like in Iraq where we have plenty of bases throughout the Middle East where we could go in quickly. We don't have that many strategic advantages geographically in Afghanistan. So what this administration is going to have to do is they're going to have to assess how bad the ISIS and al-Qaeda threat get to the American homeland in Afghanistan when we withdraw completely. And then they're going to have to, Jackie, make a costly decision about potentially going back in if there are more attacks that are planned against that would harm Americans. And that's the part where it gets expensive and gets harder. Instead of leaving a small residual, maybe 1,000, 2,000 counterterrorism force, we're taking all of our assets out. And then God forbid, if there's another terrorist threat, we have to take everything back in like we did 2011, 13 in Iraq. And
you should point out also, British troops have pulled out as well with the end of the NATO mission there. So a Taliban political delegation went to Moscow. I want to ask you, could Russia be quite nervous about the advances that the Taliban's making?
Well, not only Russia, I think China as well. Remember, China and Russia benefit from a stable Afghanistan. China actually shares a small border with Afghanistan, and these countries are much closer to Afghanistan than we are. So they certainly reap the benefits of a secure and stable and peaceful Afghanistan. And now this becomes another problem that they have to consider what they are going to do.
And one last question I want to get to Haiti with the time we have left. The FBI, DOJ is going to investigate the assassination of the leader there. How involved do you think that the United States should be in determining what happened and restabilizing this country that's in turmoil right now?
So what we have to do is pay attention. What the Biden administration do is pay more attention to Latin America writ large. I don't know if you actually know this, but this is the second assassination attempt on a leader in the Western Hemisphere in just the past few weeks. It took an assassination attempt on President Duque in Colombia for President Biden to finally call him and have a conversation with him. I outlined that in an op-ed I recently wrote for the Washington Examiner. So while we are busy withdrawing from Afghanistan, looking at the threats from the Chinese Communist Party, this administration needs to pay close and careful attention to the Western Hemisphere. Obviously, sending FBI and other resources are great, but we're starting to see an erosion of democracy in some places, like in Mexico. We see backsliding. We see assassination attempts on our allies in Colombia. And to my knowledge, President Biden still hasn't picked up the phone call to call President Bolsonaro of Brazil, who Brazil is designated as a major non-NATO ally. So
Right.
Western Hemisphere is something this administration needs to pay more attention to.
Thank you so much for your time. Morgan Ortagus, we have to leave it there. We've run out of time to discuss this further, but appreciate your expertise.
Sure.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks.